The prisoner is tied on the back of the camel. So by the time they reach their place, their dira, their dwelling place, and they leave him, he will not be able to walk for the next 2 weeks. After then, he has just become a slave and he will be sold as a slave. And they remain in ignorance. They never knew anything of the deen. I had neighbors when I was in Medina. My neighbors were among the Bedouin tribes. They were telling me that their original area is just 40 kilometers to the south of Medina. And they had come into Medina like about 40 years before, so that was maybe in the 1950s, they came into Medina. And they were telling me that despite their closeness to Medina, they never knew prayer. They never prayed. They never knew ablution. They never knew that there is ghuslul janaba. They didn't know all these things. They said they had one sheikh among themselves. They call him sheikh. They used to gather every Friday with him, and he will stand up and say and mumble some things which they did not understand, and he will do some activities which they did not know. They did not know that he was praying. He was the only one who will gather them, do the khutbah and pray alone, and they will just look at him, and after the prayer everybody will go back to their houses, and they know this is a weekly activity which they used to do. And they were living as close to Medina as 40 kilometers. It was with the coming of the Saudi kingdom when they started the da'wah activities, the ikhwan, because they believed that they were reforming Islam. And then they started sending scholars into villages. And ultimately, according to this man who was telling me this story, and this is not something which I heard from a secondary source, he was a primary source. He said it was the program of Nurun ala Darb, which is a weekly, a daily program which they used to do from 9 o'clock to 9:30, in which scholars were answering the questions of people. He said that program was what made us Muslims. These were his words. He said that program was what made us Muslims. And now you have people, in Saudi Arabia, you have people who are really committed to the deen because they know it. And it has done a lot for the religion, establishing institutions of learning. The Islamic University, which is as old as I am. It was established in it was established in 1961, and it has produced graduates that have penetrated all over the world. One of the famous scholars of this century, Sheikh Hamad al-Ansari, used to call it the United Nations of Islam, because it had the difference between the United Nations and the Islamic University is actually like less than 10 nationalities, because you have almost all nationalities of the world that are members of the United Nations. They also have citizens in the Islamic University of Medina. They also established the Muslim World League, and they were instrumental in establishing the Islamic Development Bank that had brought economic development to Muslim lands. But they are uncompromising in their commitment to Islam based on its pristine sources. That is, Islam that is based on Quran and Sunnah. You see, since after the death of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had predicted that there was going to be differences. People were going, whoever lives among you, he will witness differences and things that you would not like. And they asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what is the outlet? What is the best solution? He said, hold fast onto my practice and the practice of the righteous, rightly guided caliphs. Now this is what they take as their motto. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said also that when there are differences and the group, the community is divided into sects, the sect that is all of them will be on misguidance and error except one, and they are the ones upon which and they are the ones that are on what I am, me and my companions on this day, which is the consensus of the Muslims after the death of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now they make it very clear that this is the Islam that we believe in. Now, several things have happened or are happening between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Because Saudi Arabia was housing the holy precincts of Islam, Mecca and Medina. They were under the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Therefore, they laid claim to that enviable position of leadership of the Muslim world. With the rise of the Iranian Revolution and the slogans that Iran was always saying, unity of Islam. They used to say, La Sunniya, La Shi'iyya, Thawra, Thawra Islamiyya. No Sunni, no Shia. It is just Islamic revolution, Islamic revolution. And they will say, La Sharqiyya, La Gharbiyya, Thawra, Thawra Islamiyya. Neither East nor West, just the Islamic revolution. At that time of the Cold War, there was the Eastern Bloc, the Communist Bloc, and the Western capitalist bloc of the US and Europe, the former colonial masters. So these slogans, they appealed to they appealed to Muslim activists, not only young activists but also scholars. Many scholars were carried away by this, with the exception of those who actually saw a lot of contradiction, especially some very strong factions of the Muslim Brotherhood, which had been very active all through the last century. The Muslim Brotherhood that had got penetration in most of the Arab world, it started questioning Iran. Why did they? We have lent support to Iran. But Iran was actively supporting Hafez al-Assad, the butcher of Syria. Hafez al-Assad, the president of Syria, the father of the president Bashir al-Assad, he was a Ba'athist and also an extremist Shia group, Shia follower of the Nusayri faction, which actually they don't believe in prayer. They say everything, religion is just identifying who is your imam. There is no prayer, there is no act of worship. It is once you identify your imam, that is all. This is an extremist sect of Shiism. Iran was seriously committed to supporting Hafez al-Assad. I remember in 1982 when we visited Iran. Among us there was a Lebanese who was a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. He was studying in England because time they had changed. Just a few months earlier, in 1981, they had organized a coup d'etat together with the Islamic Front for the Liberation of Bahrain. The coup d'etat, it failed, but it showed the real intention of Iran. And we'll come back to this, the issue of Bahrain. Now, this man, whenever we met one of the notable leaders of Iran, he will ask them these questions. Why are you having special relationship with Hafez al-Assad? Because had excavators inside that hole, and trippers came with sand and they buried them alive. It was very famous. Hundreds of them were buried alive. This was done in the 1980s, in 1981. So they said, if you are committed to helping the cause of Islam And the Muslim Brotherhood, you know, it is active in Saudi Arabia, it is active in Egypt, it is active in Syria, it is active in Jordan. And this is what Hafidh al was visibly uncomfortable. Of the Iranian parliament who could speak Arabic, and he was very uncompromising. He came out fully in support of Hafidh al-Assad. He said Iran regards all the Arab lands to be insincere in their fight against Israel. The only sincere person that is fighting Israel is Hafidh al-Assad. So if indeed the Muslim Brotherhood is committed why are they not acting? That is anti-American, anti-Israel. So the Muslim Brotherhood is pro-American. The Muslim Brotherhood is pro-Israel. He said it clear. And that gave us serious doubts about the intention of Iran. At that time, we were too young and too naive to understand that countries, they have their own political goals, and friendship and enmity is based on political interest, not on any religious belief, not on any ideological leaning. It is just based on political interest. We were too young to realize that at that time, but later on, with hindsight, we were able to realize this thing. So that was the first test that made Iran fail in the Muslim world. They said that Iran is not sincere about Muslim unity. Because if indeed they are sincere about Muslim unity, it should identify itself with the interest of Islam wherever it is, without any reference to its own political interest. Then came the issue of Bahrain. Bahrain was one of the islands under Iran during the Safavids. But Bahrain, with the support of Britain and the support of Saudi Arabia, it gained independence. And it gained independence with the leaders having their own tribal lineage with Saudi Arabia, because they are originally from Saudi Arabia. So they have a special relationship with the Saudis. Now, with the assertiveness of the Iranian Revolution, and the feeling that now they have a military mind, the Revolutionary Guards, they immediately sent arms to the Islamic Front for the liberation of Bahrain. And they had already lined up Ayatollah Hadi al-Muqaddisi, who was in Iraq, to take over as the head of government. But the military fell. And that seriously questioned the desire. Why would Iran want to annex Bahrain? Because it felt that it was Persian. So the question of Persian hegemony came to the fore, and many people started questioning Iran about the issue, about its sincerity in declaring, in saying that it is committed to Islam and is committed to unity. It was committed, it had made this kind of slogans of commitment to unity. Even saying in some of the, when Khomeini was, when they were swearing this school teacher who was their president, Muhammad Ali Rajai, a former school teacher, when he was sworn in as the president, Khomeini was telling him that he should copy the example of the first caliphs of Islam, especially Umar. This was reported. This was reported in their media. And at that time, we were using this as saying that these people, they are sincere. But years came past, when it became clear that actually this was just a slogan so that Muslim lands and Muslim hearts will open to them, so that they will do what they wanted to do. If indeed they are committed to unity, as they say, because when they came here, I remember in 1983, during the first global interparliamentary conference of all parliamentarians of the world, the representatives, when they came, they said they wanted to come and meet the people. Because when they go back, Khomeini was only going to ask them about the people. And they came, and they met some of us. We were young at that time, in our early 20s. And we went round to them and we gathered to them, we gathered for them all the writings of Sheikh Uthman Mansour. And because we believed what they were saying, that each country should develop its own revolution from its own indigenous cultural sources. So he said these books, they are the ones that you will use to invigorate the Muslim and the Islamic movement in Nigeria. And they said they were committed to translating them. They carried those books and we kept writing them and asking them, when are you going to constitute the translation of these books and the reprint of these books? Up to now, these books have never seen the light of day. Because we believe that they say we don't need their books, and actually the books, they were coming from the cultural attaché office, which we used to hide in the house of Alhaji Hussein Farahini, Allah have mercy on his soul. The books about Aqidah of Shiism. Then we started saying that, okay, if indeed you want unity, why would you want to spread Shiism in Nigeria? We are not Shia. We don't have a history of Shiism. Must we need Shiism to create a change in our society? Because you had told us earlier that if you want to change, it should be homegrown from your own legacy, from what you have. And our legacy is Sheikh Uthman, our legacy is Maliki, our legacy is Bukhari, our legacy is Tafsir of the Jalalain, Kabir and the rest. We did not need a new Aqidah. And actually, I had a personal experience that seriously shook me in Iran. When we went to home, somebody came among the students of the Hausa and was very interested in me. He was showing me all the places in the school, in the Hausa, Hadrat Ma'asuma place. We went round with him. Then after praying Maghrib, he came and he asked me, "Are you Shia?" I said, "No." He said, "Okay," he just laughed, and then he just disappeared. So I felt it was the worst day of my life. And that was why I hated home, because of that experience. I hated home, because when he asked me, "Are you Shia?" I said, I felt as though he's telling me to accept another religion, that I should leave Islam and become something else. So I seriously questioned their motive and their intention. Now it appeared, because what did Iran do? All it did, in the name of establishing the religion, was creating big colonies, political groups, military groups that would be committed to establishing the military and political interests of Iran. This was what we did in Lebanon. They used the pretext of the Israeli occupation of southern Lebanon to create the Hezbollah. The Hezbollah is now a state within a state. The Houthis of Yemen, they are a paramilitary force, and they were armed by Iran. When they started attacking southern Saudi Arabia, and the Saudis, they replied with their artillery shell. Who was the one to speak against meddling in internal affairs of Yemen? The commander of the Revolutionary Guard of Iran. He said Saudi Arabia should stop meddling in the affairs of Yemen because it acted in self-defense.
Was he an ambassador? Was he a diplomat? Is he a diplomat? Is he a foreign ministry spokesman? No. And this is a question of diplomacy. But because they were so impatient to show the close ties between the military establishment of Iran and the Yemenis, this man, he threw away all diplomatic norms, and he was speaking in an area that was not his, that he was not supposed to speak about. So this is what Iran succeeded in doing, in creating this kind of pocket. This is what it did in Yemen. It was what it did in Lebanon. It was also what it did in Iran, in Saudi Arabia itself. Saudi Arabia has a sizable Shia population. The history of Shiism in Saudi Arabia, especially in Medina, dates back to the 4th century, century, because the Fatimids that had their headquarters in Egypt, they were Shiites. And their rule extended into Hijaz, into Western Saudi Arabia, including Medina. From that time, they had pockets of people who were Shiites, and they remain Shiites up to today. But the Shiites of Medina, they are not the real serious Shiites. But the real political Shiites that are committed to the Persian, to the Safavids, they are the ones in Eastern Saudi Arabia. Khatib, Al-Ihsa, and the areas where you have petrol, Dammam, and the rest. They come all together, they have a sizable population. Some of them, they place them up to 30% of the Saudi Arabian population. These areas were under the Safavids. That was how Shiism was introduced there. And even before the Safavids, it was an area where you have the Qaramita. The Qaramita will live there. The Qaramita were a notorious Shia sect that attacked the Kaaba and took the Hajar al-Aswad for 70 years. He stayed with them there. And they killed people in the that were doing the Tawaf. And they were saying, where is the Tayrul Abadi? Let the Tayrul Abadi come. So this area was notorious even in history. These people, they are committed to Iran not based on Aqidah, but based on politics. They call themselves also the Hezbollah of the Arabian Peninsula. And recently, their leader, one of their spokesmen, Nimr was killed, was hanged for treason. He was not hanged because of his Aqidah, he was not hanged because of anything, but because he was out to wrench political power. So I have spoken for so long. What I want to point out is that the conflict between Iran and Saudi Arabia, there may be the element of Aqidah, because Saudi is committed to Islam as understood by the teachings of the pious community. That is Islam based on Quran and Sunnah and the consensus of the pious predecessors. And this kind of Islam does not tolerate the Iranian version. The Iranian claim that all Muslims that are not well by Shiites, that do not accept the Imams, they are not true Muslims. There is this fundamental difference, but a more serious difference, a more real, in the world of real quality, of the difference between Saudi and Iran is that Iran feels that Saudi Arabia should be an Iranian, the Haramain, Makkah and Medina should be under Iran. In 1982, there was the famous magazine that was produced by the Revolutionary Guard. It's called Shahid. I don't know if anybody could remember it. Have you got it? You're very small that time. There was Shahid and Mahjuba. You know? Yeah. Okay, there was Shaheed also. Mahjuba was for the women, and Shaheed was for the men. In the cover of one of them, they had the picture of the Kaaba and the Bayt al-Maqdis, and a hand-carrying machine gun, saying the Kaaba and Bayt al-Maqdis must be free. The Kaaba and Bayt al-Maqdis must be liberated.